Hey everybody, this is Ryan Deal with 605 Sports here with John Akre again to do some amateur baseball talk. I guess maybe that's what we're calling this. Going to talk about some different topics and subjects about amateur baseball leading up to the state tournament later on this summer in Mitchell. And John, how are you today and everything?
Oh, I'm doing well. We're cruising right along with the notebook this week, so everything's going good on my end.
Yeah, absolutely. John's been doing some good stuff for us on his end with some different stories and everything, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about some of those for this show and everything. I guess to maybe kick this one off, this Friday is the annual Take Me Out to the Ball Game night in Dell Rapids. Dell Rapids PBR against the Dell Rapids Mudcats. Last week we talked and it was check days with Tabor and Lesterville. This one obviously feels like another big rivalry game with PBR and the Mudcats. And Dell Rapids just feels like a amateur baseball town. Obviously with two teams there in Dell Rapids, so that'll be a fun atmosphere, fun night for baseball. I think we're gonna have some coverage of that game and everything too. We might have a photographer over there, but John, when you look at the matchup itself, PBR and the Mudcats, what really kind of sticks out to you, I guess?
It's interesting because the Mudcats. I mean, as of late, they've just been a machine. I mean, they've won two of the last three state B championships, and they're 11-0 to start this year. They're really only their slip up, at least in the playoffs. The last three seasons was last year. I think they lost to Tabor, and they're probably going to go in as a heavy favorite in this matchup. They beat PBR their last two times now earlier this season, 15-5, and then last year in this same game on Corey days, 10-0. And there's not really much to say about the Mudcats. I mean, they're just rolling this year and cruising right along. And then as far as like PBR goes, I mean, they're really having a tough time kind of finding their footing. They've lost, I think, five of their last six games now, and most recently dropping one to the Wood Ducks of Humble Hartford in a kind of a marathon of a ball game, 19-13. I think there was like 32 hits in that game. And so pitching is going to be a pretty big thing there for Dell Rapids PBR, and slowing down that Mudcat offense. And obviously Mudcats have just a long list of excellent baseball players as well. And it's not just the offense that'll hurt you. So I mean, it should be a good one. And you mentioned we will have some coverage. I mean, I think we got Rodney Haas going down to take some photos there on Friday, so it should be an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Corey days. Obviously, sounds like a big event there in Del Rapids. Not just the baseball game that's going to be going on, but just a whole list of other events going on there this weekend in Del Rapids. So that's always fun when you have events like that. And also, we should note that in the new amateur baseball poll, the Dell Rapids Mudcats moved up to number one in Class B in the latest poll, so you guys can check that out online. But obviously, the Mudcats speak for themselves and what they've done last several years, really. On the when it comes to amateur baseball in South Dakota, and obviously they're kind of clicking right along here early part of this season. A team a little bit maybe closer to Mitchell is Mount Vernon. John kind of did some digging about the Mount Vernon Mustangs, and not so much about what they're doing on the field right now, but we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what they got going on with their new ballpark, and not new, I guess, renovating it, so to say. But John, what you kind of dig up about Mount Vernon and their baseball field and everything?
Yeah, so they've kind of been working through some renovations on their field in Mount Vernon, and it's been going back since the fall of 2021 now. And I talked with Derek Denning, a player and manager for the Mount Vernon Mustangs, and he just kind of talked about how they just felt they needed to kind of catch up and keep up with these other surrounding towns. Because you look at like Alexandria, Parkston, and a lot of these other towns. I mean, they're moving up to these kind of turf fields and a lot more developed fields. And Mount Vernon, I mean, prior to these renovations, was still a dirt infield. Their backstop was was really close to home plate. And so it was really difficult to move up on pass balls and whatnot, and cause a little mayhem with wild pitches and pass balls and whatnot. And then their dugouts were still pretty outdated as well. And so 2021 they went through and moved the backstop back, and as well got some in-ground kind of bunker style dugouts. They're just these big cement dugouts, and they're really nice, and they did a really great job with those. And then, the backstop, it kind of turned out a little wonky almost, and a little unorthodox, and it kind of gets really narrow as you get towards right behind home plate, to where it's almost just like a square box. And so that was causing a lot of problems, obviously. So, you see a lot of different dimensions with the outfield and baseball fields, and then you never really think about the backstop until you get over to that old Mount Vernon backstop. But they did renovate that this second time around this past off season, and they basically just squared off that kind of square area for the backstop, so it's rounder now and looks a lot better. And yeah, they hope to debut it tomorrow against Corsica, barring or any rain, at least at the time of our recording. Obviously, it'll be posted the day of, but yeah, barring any rain, we should see the debut of the new ballpark for the Mustangs. They played two home games previously at the at Cadwell Park in Mitchell, and so I'm sure they're just glad to finally be able to play home games at home.
Yeah. And like you said, I think it's cool. You go to these small towns and they really invest a lot, not just money, but just hard work into the fields. And, it's really a point of pride for a lot of these little towns to invest a lot of resources into their field. So obviously Mount Vernon falls under that category as well. Big, not just amateur, but just a big baseball town in general. So it's cool to see Mount Vernon keeping up, so to say, as you kind of said, with their field and everything. And speaking of Mount Vernon, this is obviously not amateur baseball related, but you did a story recently about the Mount Vernon Legion team and another team from South Dakota. And where did they go play a baseball game at?
Dyersville, Iowa. Got to play a game at the Field of Dreams, the actual movie site for the Field of Dreams. And I talked with Derek Denning once again, kind of a double duty phone call there that it kind of turned into, because we didn't even really think about this until he had texted me when I was trying to schedule that initial phone call about the backstop. But yeah, so they kind of had a connection with the team they played, the Faulkton Highmore Hitmen, and they got that game scheduled. And Denning was just looking for something a little different for his players to do, and looked online and saw that you could rent the Field of Dreams out, and he said it was much easier than he had kind of anticipated. And they were able to drive down there yesterday, and they played a full 9-inning game, obviously, because they rented it out for 3 hours. And I mean, if you get a chance to play on the Field of Dreams, you're going to use the whole 3 hours. So they ended up winning that one 17-0 over Faulkton. And it was just kind of interesting listening to Tate Colome, one of the players for that Legion team, and talking about the mound and the backstop, and just how he kind of said it felt like he was in Little League again, playing there, because obviously there's no fence around the foul line, and then even in the outfield they put up a small temporary fence. Even the dugouts were just benches, and they had to put up netting so you wouldn't get hit, because you were just right next to home plate. So I'm sure that was an awesome experience for them, and definitely an interesting story that kind of came out of left field, pun intended. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I personally, I've been to the Field of Dreams site. If anybody's ever in that area, gotta go check it out. Baseball fan or just a sports fan or just whatever, it's really a cool thing to check out. So obviously cool that a couple teams from South Dakota were able to go down there and play a game. And John did a story about that, so you guys can check that out on 605sports.com. And also in John's weekly notebook, we finally got the list of the number of amateur baseball teams in South Dakota this year. Anything stand out to you when you look at that list, or maybe the number of teams this year and everything?
Yeah, and I think because there is an increase in amateur teams this year a little bit, and so it'll be interesting to see how many teams each league gets. Because if I'm not mistaken, last year Corn Belt got 7 teams and Sunshine got 6. And those were kind of the two big dogs of the amateur landscape last year. And so, you see the Pony Hills are up to 8 now. The state line is up to maybe they didn't they gained one Class B team. Um, and so it'll just be interesting to see, if Corn Belt and Sunshine, if they end up losing one of those spots, with the kind of the increase in other leagues, kind of like the Pony Hills when they gained the Winter Demons, specifically the Winter Demons, because we had a rebrand with Burke. So
Yep, up to 50. Was it 50 teams in Class B?
50 in Class B and then 14 in Class A.
Yeah. So 64 total. I'm sure there's some good old boys that might see that number and kind of chuckle a little bit, because back in the day there was hundreds of teams scattered around South Dakota of amateur baseball teams, but we'll take 64. I guess that's still better than zero, I guess. Amateur baseball still strong for the most part in South Dakota and everything. So that's good. You guys can check out that full list of teams broken down by leagues in John's weekly amateur baseball notebook. And I guess to kind of cap this one off, maybe a game to watch. Being around this Mitchell area, John and I know a lot about and kind of pay attention to the Sunshine League, and obviously there's a big one on Sunday at Leahy Bowl in winter between the Alexandria Angels and the Winter Colome Pheasants. That matchup always that just seems like kind of speaks for itself. But John, how do you kind of size that matchup?
Well, yeah, and when you look at those two teams, I mean, year in and year out for the past almost decade now, those two teams have been, number 1 and number 2 in the Sunshine every year. And I mean, right now, you look at Winter Colome, they're 10-1 on the season, and they might just have the best offense in amateur baseball this season. I mean, they're outscoring opponents like, I don't know, I can't even remember the number. It was like 123-39 this year. I mean, they outside of one loss, one kind of dud to the Killer Tomatoes in Platte. I mean, they've been playing some high level baseball this season. And then Alec, obviously one of the most historic teams as of late. Their run in the 2010s has just been incredible. And I mean, they're still playing at a high level as well, 9-1. The biggest thing I think with that is, obviously it is on a Sunday, so there is going to be some availability there, but just getting guys to winter always seems to be a difficult thing for these Sunshine League teams, because it's kind of a long drive for some. But I think with it being kind of a high level matchup, I think it'll ultimately it could determine the number 1 and 2 seeds going into the Sunshine League tournament. So I'm sure Alec will has penciled this one down for a while now, especially this is their only loss on the year, 9-1 on the season. They lost to them back in May and 16-5. And so that probably left a bad taste in their mouth, and they're going to want to come back for some revenge. So it should be a good one. I mean, they'll have that broadcasted as well, I think, on Winter Warriors Live. I'm going to just speak for them. I have no idea, but we'll just hope it is. And so, yeah, that one should be a good one.
Yeah. Like we talked earlier with Mudcats and PBR, a rivalry. Obviously, Dell Rapids, you got two teams right there in Dell Rapids, in town rivalries. This one, it doesn't matter. It feels like even though Alexandria and Winter kind of separated by a couple hours or whatever it may be, this is a one you really keep an eye on. Amateur baseball fans pencil this one down and obviously keep tabs of and kind of see how that one plays out. And I think in addition to some live ticket coverage, we might have some more photography down there to maybe capture some images of that game and everything. So we'll try to provide some coverage of that one on Sunday. All righty, John. Well, this was fun as always. You guys can check out John's weekly amateur baseball notebook on 605 Sports and we're going to try to keep rolling out some amateur baseball coverage the rest of the summer leading up to the tournament and everything. So you guys can check that out, and then we'll see you next time, John.
Awesome.